All right, so are you ready to really dig into the story of Nike? And I'm not talking about the Michael Jordan collaborations or the big stadiums. We're going way back to the beginning, before the swoosh, before any of that, when it was just this idea, this crazy idea that this guy Phil Knight had.
You know, it's funny. His memoir, Shoe Dog, what makes it so interesting is how honest it is. It's not your typical, you know, business success story. It's really about believing in something and then the crazy journey of actually, trying to make it happen.
It's the early 60s, okay? So picture Phil Knight. He's just out of business school, and he's got this existential angst, he calls it. He's a runner, though, and he knows that feeling of being in the zone, that feeling athletes get right before something amazing is about to happen, but is also trying to find his place in the world.
And he starts to see this pattern, like all the things he loves, right? Books, sports, even democracy. Someone had to think those were crazy ideas first, impossible dreams, and they made them happen. So he's 24 years old, and that's when he gets his own crazy idea, this belief that he could build something important.
No, me. I'd probably play it safe, right? Not Knight. He quits this cushy sales job in Hawaii and just buys a one-way ticket to travel the world. Who does that? What a risk.
Yeah, it seems crazy, but it shows you how restless he was. Knight even writes about hearing these two voices in his head, one saying, go back to the safe life, the other one's like, go explore. Thank goodness he listened to that one.
Because in 1962, he ends up in Japan. But this is right after the war. The whole country's rebuilding. There's this energy. And here's Knight, this American guy, trying to figure out a culture totally different from his own.
This is important. It's not just a business deal. It's like cultural clash, different customs, how they talk, even what's polite in business. Knight had to learn fast, no doesn't always mean no over there. And tycoon, that translates to warlords. Wild, right?
Talk about a crash course. So he goes to this company, Onitsuka. They make tiger shoes. And Knight, he sees something in them, good quality, well-made. He thinks American runners would love this. But here's the kicker. To order samples, he needs $50. So he wires his dad for the money.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
That little detail, asking his dad for $50,
Yeah.
it tells you so much about him. He trusted his family, obviously, but also he was willing to bet on himself, even with almost nothing. Makes you wonder how many huge businesses started with that same kind of leap of faith. It's crazy how one small deal, this Onitsuka thing, it's like the seed for the whole Nike empire.
It's wild. But he doesn't just race back and start building. Knight keeps traveling, sees different cultures, even goes hiking in the Himalayas. It's like he's still searching for something.
Exactly. He needed to see how other people lived, how they saw things, before he could figure out his own way. It's like sometimes you got to get lost to really find yourself.
And all this time, those shoes, they're just sitting in his parents' house. Can you imagine? This future, global brand starts with him selling shoes out of his car trunk.
And get this, his first customer, his own mother. That's Knight, though. Total hustler, making it happen.
So he's got the shoes, he's got a little business going, but something's missing. That's where these two guys come in. Bill Bowerman, his old Trek coach, and the salesman, Jeff Johnson. Knight knew him from Stanford.
And neither one is who you would expect. Bowerman, this guy was obsessed with shoes, how to make them better, tinkering in his garage, trying different stuff. He even used his wife's waffle iron to make a new kind of sole.
A waffle iron. Who would have thought? And then Johnson, he was supposed to be an anthropologist, a social worker. Instead, he's sending Knight all these crazy marketing ideas. A million ideas a minute, this guy.
Talk about passion. These guys were all about it. But while all this is happening, Knight's company is growing super fast.
And that wasn't always good, was it? Banks were freaking out. They thought it was too much, too fast, didn't get what he was doing.
And that's where Knight, being an accountant, it actually helps. He could see stuff in the numbers, a secret code, he called it, that other people missed. They saw chaos, he saw where it could go, all those spreadsheets.
Numbers, the language of business. Speaking of which, that's how Knight meets his wife, Penny Parks. Accounting class. Love story for the ages. But this whole time, business, new wife, teaching at Portland State, Onitsuka is causing problems.
Oh yeah, they were a headache. Late shipments, messed up orders, the works. Knight flies back to Japan to try and fix it, and that's when he finds out. They were going to cut him out completely, sell directly to American stores.
Ouch. Talk about betrayal.
No kidding. And it forces Knight's hand.
Yeah.
He can't rely on anyone else. He has to start his own brand. Huge turning point.
So they have to figure out a whole new game plan, right? Start from scratch.
Yeah, they were kind of thrown into the fire, but sometimes that's how the best stuff happens. They had to make their own thing, and that pushed them to be more creative.
And they came up with Nike. But that wasn't the first choice, was it? I mean, can you imagine calling it something else?
Right. Dimension 6 almost happened. Thank goodness they went with Nike. It just sounds powerful.
Totally. But even with a great name, it's still a tough road, right? I mean, it's not
Right.
like things got easy overnight.
Not at all. It was lawsuits and money problems and just crazy stuff happening all the time. Remember that waffle trainer that had the weird heel? Big recall, cost a fortune. Even when you're doing everything right, you're going to make mistakes.
It's true. It's never just smooth sailing. But
Yeah.
the cool thing is how they handle it all. Those butt-face meetings, right? They'd argue and debate everything, but always with respect?
Yeah.
It was intense, but they were like family.
Exactly. And that's how you solve problems. By being honest and open, even when it's tough. That's how they got stronger as a team.
They pushed each other to be better. By 1980, Nike is everywhere. It's like a household name at this point. But more success, more problems
Smart.
sometimes, right?
They needed money, like serious money, to keep up with everything. Going public, that made sense, but it's scary too. Giving up some of that control.
It's like you build this amazing thing, you put your heart into it, and then you got to let other people have a say. Tough call.
But they needed to do it to make Nike even bigger.
So they took the leap. December 1980, Nike goes public. You'd think that's a happy ending, right? But Knight, he says he felt regret.
Kind of wild ride. He's about to be crazy rich, his idea worked, but he's still thinking about what could been.
Makes you think? Is there ever a point where you're just like totally satisfied? Or is there always that little part of you that wonders, what if I did this differently?
That's the thing about life and business. It's never a straight line. There's ups and downs, good decisions and bad ones. And sometimes the best you can do is learn from it all.
What I take away from Nike's story is just how important it is to go for it, even if it sounds crazy. It's about believing in yourself, building a great team, and never giving up, even when things get tough.
Totally. Phil Knight had this crazy idea, and look what he did. So what's your crazy idea? What's that thing you've been dreaming about? Maybe it's time to take that leap.
That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.